Welcome to Winter Weather in Depth on KXAN Plus. I am Jennifer Sanders, joined by my friend, my colleague, Chief Meteorologist Nick Bannin. This is exciting. You've been so busy, so I'm glad that you're able to take time out and just really have a conversation about what we can expect.
Yeah, you know what's been interesting about the storm is meteorologist Tommy House first warned our viewers about it on Sunday, and we've just been talking about it day after day, like a slow-moving disaster, although we're not anticipating a disaster, but just something that you see coming from so far away that it almost builds the attention, some necessary attention, some of it too much in some regards. Certainly, we're hoping to walk you through it, fact check some of the confusion, also give you some reasonable expectation about the difficulties that we may have with the storm. So it is coming. The Arctic cold front is already here.
Yes.
And then next we'll be talking about the changeover from rain over to our icy mix.
Okay, you took the words out of my mouth. You're really setting expectations, telling people what they can expect over the weekend. So let's dive into the current temperatures now and what we're seeing outside.
Yeah, so this is the view from our Austonian weather camera. We're coming from you for you live here at 6:55 in the evening. Many of you watching us on KXAN.com, Facebook, YouTube. I also hope you're joining us on KXAN Plus, which is our connected TV app. You're going to be able to see a lot of weather coverage there over the next 2 days using our connected TV app, which is available through the Apple TV Store, Fire Stick, Roku, and Samsung TVs, where you'll be able to get a lot of weather coverage in between our newscasts. So as we're coming to you now, our cold front has arrived in Austin. We've dropped from about 65 degrees an hour ago already to 57. So the temperatures are already cooling in Austin. You can see what the air is like north of us, where we've got 40s, 30s, 20s, teens, and even single digits north of us as well. And that type of cold is going to be dropping into central Texas here as we go through the night and as we go through the day on Saturday, and it will continue getting colder into Sunday. The coldest mornings will actually be Monday morning and Tuesday morning, so it will take a while before we actually reach the bottom, before we start to crawl our way out. So here's where the front is now locally. Again, north of the front, 50s and 40s. South of the front's where we've got the 60s to almost 70 degrees, and these temperatures will keep dropping here this evening. Here's a computer model representation of that temperature drop. It's 40s and 30s by midnight, but notice, Jennifer, still no freezes here by midnight tonight. That's key because originally, a couple of days ago, it had looked like this cold was going to come in several hours earlier and potentially flipping some areas to ice already by midnight. We're thinking that doesn't happen now until the first few hours of tomorrow morning.
Okay, and so what do the temperatures look like tomorrow and going throughout Saturday?
Yeah, so technically our high temperature tomorrow is going to happen right at midnight, either in the 40s or in the 30s. So let me walk you through those numbers, and then you can see how the numbers continue to drop 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, widespread 30s. And let me draw your attention here to the hill country because it's here, especially in the western hill country, but even places like Burnett, Lampasas, far western Williamson County may be at freezing by daybreak. And at this time, we're going to have rain coming through that will therefore fall as freezing rain. And we'll show you the precipitation types here in a little bit. Temperatures may climb slightly by midday, early afternoon, only by about a degree or two, but it may be helping a little bit. That slight temperature climb may make the difference between some of you starting off the day as freezing and then turning slightly above freezing by midday. But then what happens during the afternoon and into the evening as then temperatures start to reverse course and get colder again, with 20s in the hill country by early Saturday evening, and we're down to freezing in Austin by then. Say between about 6 and 8, we drop to freezing in Austin, and then our eastern counties follow suit. So it takes some time, Jen, before we are all at freezing, but we think that happens by mid to late Saturday evening, by which point anything falling from the sky would be freezing.
Yeah, okay, so cold temps, but there's also wind that we have to contend with.
Yeah, and the wind is sort of, there's been so much we've had to talk about that some of the things that we would try to talk about, we've had to take out for time. But that's what's great about this longer conversation is we can fit everything in. And the wind is part of the story too, especially when you have branches that eventually get covered in ice. Just a little bit of wind can agitate those branches and cause them to snap and fall, leading to power outages. So the wind is picking up with our front here this evening, and wind gusts 20 to 30 miles per hour overnight and through the day on Saturday. Not particularly powerful, but it will make it feel colder, and it will also, as we accumulate more ice, heighten the power outage risk. So this is Saturday evening at 5, wind gusts 20, 25 miles per hour, more of an annoying nuisance wind that will only make it feel colder. And then still wind gusts into Sunday morning, gusting around 20 to 25 miles per hour. And through the day on Sunday, a stiff breeze out of the north that will only make it feel colder. So we've showed you the temperatures, we've showed you the wind, and then these combine to give you the wind chill, which is an interpreted temperature on how it would feel on exposed skin, which is why we show you and tell you to cover up as much skin as you can when it gets cold, because the wind helps to wick away your body's heat if your skin is exposed, therefore making your skin and body feel colder than it normally would. And if you cover up that exposed skin, then the temperature is the temperature, and then there's no wind chill. But the wind chill exists to describe how it feels on exposed skin as your heat is getting pulled from your body by the wind. So starting off Saturday morning, 7 o'clock, feeling like 20s. Even if the air temperature is above freezing for you, it will feel like it's below freezing all day long. And then the wind chill staying in the 20s most of the day here tomorrow. Of course, that's dangerous cold if you're out for even a short amount of time, although there'll be other places, other parts of the country that may be watching us, laughing at us, thinking that this is cold where they are colder. Yes. We have to react to the weather that we get here and what we're used to, and we're certainly not used to this.
Okay. And just for a quick moment, we do want to talk about people who may not have a home, people who are experiencing homelessness. There are warming centers, there are shelters that are open that the city of Austin and different city and county agencies across Central Texas have opened up. So visit kxan.com if you want to learn more about those. Okay, so extreme
cold
warning. There have been warnings issued. I'm trying to get it right. That's why I have to ask you.
And we appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is a warning that helps guide how cold it's going to be. And it used to be that we would separate cold warnings from wind chill warnings and wind chill advisories. The National Weather Service has more recently consolidated their alert products so that it doesn't matter so much whether we call it a wind chill warning or an extreme cold warning. The extreme cold warning factors in the wind chill.
Yes.
Either it feels dangerously cold to your skin, which means it is dangerously cold, or the air temperature alone is cold enough to be dangerous. So let's get rid of some of the unnecessary alerts is what they thought, and let's just consolidate them. And because of wind chills that may drop into the single digits and teens as we go through Saturday night, Sunday night, into Monday, we've got an extreme cold warning for all of Central Texas. Now, there are different criteria depending on where you live as to whether you get an extreme cold warning or a cold weather advisory, but we all have an extreme cold warning. And summing it up more broadly, the wind chills may drop to as low as 5 below zero, but for many of us, it'll be single digits and low teens. At times, Saturday night to Sunday morning, and then again Sunday night into Monday morning. So Sunday morning and Monday morning would be the most dangerous times to be outside, with those wind chills being in those teens and single digits. But rather than starting a warning, stopping it, starting it again, it's much easier for the National Weather Service to keep this warning going from Saturday at 6 p.m. All the way through Monday at noon. So single digit wind chills, air temperatures cold enough that they could burst your pipes if you don't take enough caution. The extreme cold warning, though, is less so for the pipes and more for the human danger, and also danger to your pets, too. But we also have to remember the 4 Ps as we go through the entire weekend.
Yes, absolutely. And Freddie Vela, meteorologist Freddie Vela, he did a segment on that. So you can visit, again, kxan.com to learn more about how to protect your pipes and people and plants. Check on your elderly neighbors as well. Let's talk about precipitation.
Yeah, so for precipitation, we leave the extreme cold warning and go to this, our winter storm warning, which already started at 6 p.m. in Mason and San Saba counties. It's the San Angelo office of the National Weather Service that are in charge of the warnings, watches, and advisories for Mason and San Saba counties. So that's part of the reason that their warning starts earlier than the rest of us. We've got the DFW office of the National Weather Service responsible for a couple of our counties, but the majority of us, the National Weather Service, Austin, San Antonio office, take charge. And then for the vast majority of Central Texas, the Austin Metro included, our winter storm warning begins at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, Saturday morning, lasting until noon on Sunday. So what's the precipitation doing now, and where's it coming from? Jen, can you see that swirl there, just southwest of Southern California? Mm-hmm. So that's our Pacific low pressure that is ejecting moisture and throwing that moisture our way. So even though the low is far away, we're getting the rain from it already. And this low is going to be gradually working its way across Mexico and into Texas. And as it gets closer, we're just going to keep getting more rounds of rain and then, of course, flipping over to freezing rain and sleet. So that's sort of the big picture. See, we do a little science.
You do, yes.
While we talk, too. So let's dive into the graphics full, and you can see where this area of low pressure is going. And even though it's not here yet, it's already bringing moisture in the form of rain, freezing rain, sleet, and snow to Texas as we speak. The bluish-white color there, the top of our state, closer to the Panhandle, parts of North Texas, that is snow. And then the pinkish color, that's the sleet and freezing rain. And then as you get closer to Central Texas, for right now anyway, it is just rain. So as we zoom in, again, for those of you watching us live, here just after 7 p.m. on a Friday evening, it's scattered showers, just plain old rain. And that means if you haven't done the things you need to do to get ready for this winter storm, you still have time to do that here tonight. Even though our Arctic front is here, we're not going to drop below freezing at the very earliest in the first few hours of tomorrow morning in parts of the hill country. Should we walk through the timeline?
Yes, we should. And I do want to say something really quickly, Nick. You talked about if you haven't gotten things done that you need to get done, to do those now. We know that HEB, an email just came into our newsroom that they've adjusted the store hours based on the weather. So just make sure if you are going out to either call ahead to the store for flights. Also, United has impacted. Some of their flights will be impacted tomorrow and through the weekend. So just make sure that you check ahead as you leave the house and you get your grocery runs done, or you have to travel. Yeah, because we know people do have to travel.
But a reminder, you don't have to shop for 3 weeks worth of food either.
Glad you said that.
Or toilet paper, bread, milk. We're going to get through this weekend, and Monday's going to be dangerously cold, but we'll be climbing to warmer temperatures as we head through early next week to the middle of next week. So as long as you've got enough food for the weekend and into early next week, you're fine. Now, you can go out in this cold, but you don't want to risk that. And that's why it's best to have food through the weekend into early next week. But don't need to stock up as if we're going to be, not able to eat for weeks, because it's just not that type of storm.
Okay. I'm glad you made that point of clarification. So now let's go into that timeline. And a lot of people, Nick, are asking about the ice. So I know that you'll get into that as well.
All right. So this is our future clouds and radar product. And you can see the colors there, and there's a legend at the top of your screen to indicate what those colors mean. This evening, scattered showers at first. These showers gradually turning to steadier rain, even thunderstorms as well. Those thunderstorms tonight could actually produce some small hail before we even get into the wintry weather. And this is going to be some pretty heavy rain during the middle of the night into early tomorrow morning as well. And the thunder that comes with it could wake you up in the middle of the night too. Now, I paused the maps here at 4 in the morning because some parts of the hill country may see a little bit of spotty freezing rain before the warning has begun. Remember, that warning begins for most of the hill country at 6 in the morning, and this is 4. So this particular computer model, a little bit early compared to some of the other ones we look at as far as the switch over from rain to freezing rain, but we feel good about it in general. So just a heads up, there may be a little bit of some freezing rain that tries to mix with the rain in the hill country as early as 4. But bottom line is the majority of the icing is going to come a little later in the morning and especially later in the day. So here we are at 6 in the morning. I expect 2 distinct rounds of more widespread precipitation. The first round will be likely ongoing or starting to taper off as you wake up. That will firstly be mainly rain, but a little wintry weather mixing into in the form of freezing rain mainly, with the rain in the northwestern metro and into the hill country. Then we'll enter this period, Jen, that I worry a little bit is going to prove to bring a false sense of security where we're not going to see the rain coming down as heavily, the freezing rain coming down as heavily. It will be more spotty in nature, a bit more drizzly, more sprinkly. And this lull from, say, mid to late morning through at least the early afternoon may make people think, it was all a bust.
Yeah.
Everything's fine. Let's go out and drive around and it was all fine. Let's undo the preparations that we've done. But it's later in the afternoon that the conditions we expect will worsen into the evening as both the temperatures drop to below freezing almost everywhere, and then the precipitation starts to come back. So this second round is where we get the majority of our ice from. So I don't want you forgetting about that, even if you get a little bit of this is not too bad in the middle of the day.
Okay, and we will dig a little deeper into ice. Quickly, though, I do want to address, people are asking about the grid, and they're asking about power outages. I spoke to ERCOT CEO earlier today, Pablo Vegas, and he said that they are confident the grid will hold up. And we know that legislative reforms have been put in place after winter storm in the winter storm in 2021. So that's really helped bolster our grid. So they say that there are no concerns about the reliability of our grid. We wanted to let everyone know that. In terms of outages, we might see localized outages. We know that we saw one today, but it wasn't even weather related. I think a car hit a utility pole, and that's what happened.
Yeah, that was one of the outages this morning. There's also another thing that can happen when you don't have rain in a while and dust accumulates on the wires and the electrical transmitters. I'm not an electrician.
Yes, I know.
But it can lead to some power outages when you start getting a light rain, like the drizzle we had this morning, collecting on top of the dust. So I know that was the reason for some of the outages too. But you're right, the bulk of them due to a car crash, right? But yeah, localized outages different than grid-related outages.
Yes.
And the localized ones can come from branches being weighed down by the ice, weighing onto power lines, and bringing those power lines down. And those are the ones that we can't rule out. In fact, we think there'll probably be some of them, but not the grid-related ones. We hope that would affect much bigger areas.
Absolutely. So in terms of the ice, I know a lot of people have concerns about travel. I know someone commented on our Facebook page that they have to work during the time when that ice will be present. And so what is the critical window? What window do you want people to be focused on? What should they know about the ice?
Yeah, so the critical window is mid-afternoon tomorrow through the first few hours of Sunday morning. As far as the steadiest of the ice accumulation, and when the majority of our ice is going to come. So let me walk you through that particular window here with our weather graphics again. So we go from that lull around the middle of the day, and then here's that secondary round that may start as a little bit of plain rain for some of you, but notice the pinkish color here and how quickly that takes over, including Austin, as we get into the early evening or late afternoon, early evening on Saturday. Into Saturday night, widespread rounds of this ice, this freezing rain mixing with sleet. We may end up with a dusting of sleet, but it's the freezing rain we're most concerned about because it leads that glaze on all colder surfaces. And then by the time we get into the first few hours of Sunday morning, the precipitation winds down. There may be some snowflakes that mix in on the very back edge of this storm. Not for all of us, but sometimes what can happen is these storms are wrapping up. They can squeeze out a little bit of snow here on the back end. Most of us won't get any snow. I know the kids were hoping.
I know.
So my
Some adults
son,
were too.
Yeah, that's true.
What did Luca say?
I've got a 9-year-old son who he woke up at 3 this morning because he was excited about the storm. And then he went back to bed and he woke up again at like 5 or 6 or something.
Yeah.
And we're like, it's not a snowstorm, it's an ice storm. But he was still excited about it for whatever reason. Maybe he's just excited about dad working all weekend. I don't know.
I know.
But, if we see a few flakes in the very end, good for you for those of you that want that. But mostly, even as this precipitation wraps up Sunday morning, there could be a few spotty sleet showers or freezing rain showers, but mostly the precipitation's done by daybreak. Doesn't mean that you're fine to travel around, though, because the ice that had formed overnight is still going to be on the ground, on the elevated surfaces, much of the morning. In fact, possibly a good chunk of Sunday.
Yeah, and Erica Brennis, our traffic anchor, she spoke to TxDOT, and they obviously have been treating roads. They will treat the roads, but she has a really good breakdown on our website at kxan.com. Now, you have a graphic that shows, okay, if it's this amount of ice, this is what it will do. Can we dig deeper into that?
Yeah, so let me show you what we're expecting for ice, and then we can dive into what that amount of ice could mean as far as power outages go. So this is our KXAN First Warning Weather Team's ice accumulation forecast by the time the storm wraps up Sunday morning. So this isn't what you're going to necessarily wake up to Saturday morning or what you'd have Saturday afternoon evening. It's by the time you wake up Sunday morning as the storm is done. Here's what we think you will have where you are. So in the hill country, where we're most concerned about the higher ice amounts, 0.15 to almost a third of an inch of ice, but some isolated amounts up to half an inch. And the higher the ice, the more the weight on the branches, the higher the power outage risk. Then into the majority of the metro, with the exception of far western Travis County and the western third of Williamson County, which will be closer to what the hill country gets than everywhere else. The majority of the area, including the Austin metro, gets 1/10 to 2/10 of an inch of ice. So just shy of 1/4 of an inch of ice, which is still a significant amount of ice. Any ice can make things slippery. Doesn't have to be this much. And then in our southeastern counties, Caldwell, perhaps a portion of southern Bastrop and much of Fayette County, we expect those amounts of ice to be less than 1/10 of an inch, but still ice for you too. So Jen, you brought up, what does this ice mean? So I was looking at our own local history about when ice starts to cause us problems here. And breaking it down as far as when we think ice could lead to power outages. So first of all, less than 1/10 of an inch of ice, any ice at all, up to 1/10 of an inch is going to cause slippery roads, mostly on those elevated surfaces, but even the non-elevated surfaces after a time in the cold can get icy too. And then you could see between 1/10 of an inch of ice up to 1/4 of an inch of ice, you can get some limited outages. The weaker branches that may not be doing so well anyway, may be more inclined to fall. And then the critical step here is once you reach 1/4 of an inch of ice, that is when a lot of the power outages really started to jump back in 2023. During that storm is once we hit that 1/4 inch ice mark. And at the bottom of the screen here, you can actually see how much ice we got in 2023 by the end. Was almost 7/10 of an inch of ice. But the outages started around the 1/4 inch mark. And between 1/4 of an inch and 1/2 an inch of ice, we anticipate scattered outages. And then over 1/2 an inch of ice is where the widespread outages come from, which is what we had again in 2023. So with that in mind, just going back to that map we showed you earlier of our anticipations of ice. Most of the metro, most of our eastern counties are less than that 1/4 inch of ice, where limited outages are possible. But it's the scattered outages that are more inclined to happen in the hill country. And when, again, especially with these amounts up to isolated 1/2 inch amounts of ice. And then you're much less likely to get ice as you get into our southeastern counties. So that amount, again, here's what we're looking at. This is where we think most of us are going to be in that limited outage range. Still want you ready and prepared. You got to prepare for the worst, as is often the case. I hope for the best, that old saying.
Yes.
But that's what we're looking at as far as the majority of the area tomorrow.
Okay.
Into Sunday.
Yeah. One of our friends on Facebook is asking, what is the difference between this and the 2021 winter storm? I know that's in a lot of people's mind, and anytime they hear winter storm in Texas, that immediately comes up. But this is vastly different.
It's almost the wrong storm to compare it to.
Ooh, okay.
Because that was a snowstorm.
Yeah.
And now we had some freezing rain in there too, but the ice amounts in 2021 were not significant. It's the 2023 storm that was the ice storm that caused us way more freezing rain problems. And that's why in that last graphic I showed that is still up. I did want to list what ice we got in 2023 because that was a storm that was so much of it, if not all of it, freezing rain and ice. But you can see here that if we get what we're expecting to get, it will be much less than what we got in 2023 when we had all those localized outages that were nothing to do with the grid.
Okay. What are we seeing around the state? We know that North Texas typically gets the brunt of all of this. So what are we seeing around the state, even for people who might have to travel through Texas?
Yeah, so let me just broaden out the view here on our clouds and radar. This is what's happening now statewide, and you can see it's generally speaking rain from central Texas south. And then north of central Texas is where the transition begins into North Texas, and then into the panhandles where we transition from a wintry mix over to more of that snow into portions of Oklahoma and North Texas and the panhandle where the dividing line is between the wintry mix and snow. Some people have asked me before we got to today why it is that we're not seeing snow versus other parts of the state. And that's not because of the temperature down near the ground. It's because of the temperature higher up. We're expecting sleet and freezing rain because the air near the ground will be, as you see here, colder than 32. So a shallow layer of cold air is enough to lead to ice, but not too far up above our heads, there's warm enough air that is melting any snow from above into rain. It then falls into that shallow layer of cold air and freezes when it comes in contact with the sub-freezing ground temperatures. Now, when that layer of cold, again, less than 32 degrees Fahrenheit, is a little bit thicker, but still doesn't extend all the way to where the precipitation develops in the clouds and starts likely as snow. You melt the snow still because there's a little bit of warm air, but then you refreeze that, what is now rain, into freezing rain and, well, into sleet, I should say, which are those ice pellets before they reach the ground. So the difference between freezing rain and sleet is just how thick that layer of cold is. The thicker that layer is, the more you deal with sleet, the less you deal with freezing rain. Sometimes what can happen too is when the precipitation is heavy enough, even if it refreezes, it can reach the ground as sleet when the precipitation is a little heavier because the layer, therefore, of cold actually gets a little deeper during heavier precipitation. But still what we're primarily concerned about is the freezing rain. The sleet is a dusting or so of sleet on top of the freezing rain. Sleet, Jennifer, as well as snow, is actually easier to get around in than freezing rain. I mean, you and I both lived in upstate New York. We know that many people can deal with and manage to deal with snow, but dealing and getting around with ice is a much different story.
Yeah, it's very tricky. Okay, this is all so fascinating. I was going to ask you about something else, but I think I'm going too far in advance.
I can go back?
No, let's go there. What I was going to ask about is next Friday, but it might be too soon.
We'll get there in a little bit.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'll end with the 7-day forecast because we do have the potential for another winter storm next Friday, which is what you're hinting at. I really hope that my voice, which has been struggling all week, is better by then.
It will be.
Here's how much rain, though, we're expecting, because this is the wettest weather of the year. I know that there's so many concerns, and I don't want to downplay the concerns for ice or dangerous cold, but we are going to get some beneficial rain out of this, too. Broad brushing it, 3/4 of an inch of rain up to 2 inches of rain. A lot of that heavier rain actually comes tonight. So now let's sort of dive in to the forecast. We've shown you a lot of models. What are we forecasting here? So periods of rain and some thunderstorms overnight may lead to some hail, small hail, but also some spotty freezing rain in the far western hill country. And then as we go through Saturday, temperatures may start in the upper 30s near, if not just before daybreak, but the temperatures will fall through the day. And we think Austin's going to be down near freezing by late afternoon or early evening. And then, so the freezing rain threat, the ice, greatest concern for that in a more widespread way, Saturday late afternoon, Saturday night into early Sunday. Sunday's not going to add much wintry precipitation once the sun is up for the day. We think it's going to be a mostly dry day, but the icy surfaces will likely linger. We expect more clouds than sun on Sunday. Temperatures may just about reach freezing in Austin, but most areas will not get above freezing on Sunday. Here's the timeline of Saturday and the rain chances and the precipitation chances. They start high, they lower near that lull either side of midday, and then they start to creep back up again later in the afternoon and going up at night. And then as far as Sunday goes, Sunday's more about the existing ice and the cold, not so much additional precipitation. Because we'll start in the low 20s, but it'll feel like 8. We'll climb up to 32, but it'll feel like the mid-20s, even with some afternoon sun. So Sunday, the story is cold. Look at the highs here on Sunday. Most of us not getting above freezing, which means that there will be many of you that once you dip below freezing tonight or tomorrow morning, will not climb above freezing until Monday, spending 24 to 48 hours below freezing. Of course, the longer you're below freezing, the more of a concern that is for pipes, because the longer they spend below freezing tonight or tomorrow morning, the will not higher risk of pipe issues there. And then Monday morning, brutal cold. This is not wind chill. This is air temperature.
Wow.
Teens, single digits. This will easily be our coldest morning of winter so far. Tuesday morning will be almost as cold. And then you can see how the high temperatures warm through the week next week. I say warm loosely. We're still going to be below average. But middle 30s on Monday, middle 40s on Tuesday, 50s Wednesday and Thursday, and then temperatures drop on Friday with our next cold front. And then here's the nighttime lows. Tuesday morning, almost as cold as Monday morning in the teens. By Wednesday morning, much more tolerable temperatures there. So Jen, losing my voice a bit, so we're going to have to start to wrap things up. But I did want to summarize what we've discussed here for roughly the last 45 minutes or so, is that tonight is about the rain and the storms with a very limited icing threat. Tomorrow, we'll transition slowly from rain to freezing rain, but remember that lull in the middle of the day. It may be drizzly during that lull, so I wouldn't call it dry, just not as active. And then there's still going to be icy spots west and northwest of Austin tomorrow morning. But the biggest threat, the greatest icing potential comes beginning late tomorrow afternoon through tomorrow night into Sunday when we flip to all freezing rain and ice. And I do want to end with this, Jen. We talked about it next Friday.
Okay. All right.
It's not set in stone. It is very end of our 7-day forecast. But several of our computer models hinting at the potential for a wintry mix of precipitation coming in and possibly staying with us even through Friday night as temperatures start near freezing in the morning, warm a bit, and then drop back down again. Still a lot of wiggle room in that forecast, though. But just wanted to give you that first warning about that today. But much to be ironed out about.
Yes, I think we should just get through this weekend.
I know,
first.
right? So it's like forget day 7.
I know. So we have so many resources on our website, obviously at kxan.com. We have seen delays and cancellations for schools and churches over the weekend, even into Monday. School districts are monitoring the weather. So we'll keep you updated, everything you need to know on kxan.com. And if you're watching us live right now, we hope that you join us for KXAN News at 10 o'clock. Thanks so much for joining us for Winter Weather in Depth on KXAN+.
Thanks.